Broadcasting live from New York, you are watching The Fix. It's about people, problems, and perspectives. I am Ohimaya Amaeze, your anchor on the show. Let's begin.
Good evening and thanks for joining me tonight. I am Ohimaya Amaeze, your anchor on the show. You're watching The Fix, broadcasting live from New York. So before I begin the show tonight with my interview with my guest, Barrister Inibehe Effiong, I'd like us to begin with our social media banter, where we take a look at some of the issues that trended on social media during the week. And of course, to go through the segment with me, I have a few guests tonight. I have Bonario Nags.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And of course, I have JSP Obio joining me also tonight.
Hello, everyone.
And I also have May Ubeku. Hello, May.
Hello.
Thanks for joining us on the show tonight. Yeah, so one of the issues that trended on social media this week was the arrest of Nigerian singer Omah Lay in Uganda for allegedly violating COVID-19 rules. And that issue caused a firestorm on social media. We saw a lot of Nigerians coming out, to throw their weight behind Omah Lay, calling for his release. The hashtag Free Omah Lay was trending. It was a big issue. And it's so interesting that in this particular case, Nigerians came out to support one of their own. And I'm curious to know what you guys think. Why was this issue really important to a lot of Nigerians? I'll probably start with you, JSP, first.
Well, thank you very much, Ohimaya.
We can't see your face, JSP. You need to adjust the screen.
You can? Can you see my face now?
Now we can see your face, yeah.
Okay, my bad, I'm sorry. So I will start off this way, right? I think the reason why Nigerians were very active when it comes to this particular issue is because of what has been happening over, a couple of months now with the whole EndSARS protest and everything. That whole activity brought together a oneness amongst youth in Nigeria, and they were able to understand the importance of togetherness. And it made it very obvious that with the smell, they don't even want to be associated with it at all. You get me? So now I think that this incident has made a lot of Nigerians see that, the more we stand for each other, the better we have a chance of doing stuff that we've never really gotten before. So when the incident happened in Uganda, everybody felt like it's their own call duty to actually, put the voice out to say, hey, look, this is not right. You guys don't have the right to, treat these people like criminals. They are just artists, fine. We understand that, an incident had occurred like this, but nevertheless, you don't have the right to treat them like criminals. If it was in America, it would have been a different ball game. Another issue would have opened up from there. So I think due to the fact that the whole EndSARS protest happened a while ago, that has been more of an eye-opener, for a lot of Nigerians out there, and they're not really ready to take whatever, nonsense that comes from unnecessary act or, behavior. And
yeah, if I hear you clearly, the EndSARS protest in Nigeria contributed to creating that social consciousness amongst Nigerians, and they came out to support one of their own. Bonario, what do you think was the real issue going on here? Oh, we lost Bonario's feed. Maybe he'll join us back. But May Ubeku, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here, but it looks like my network is hanging because I can see. Though
Yeah,
it's okay.
your video is off. So can you just quickly log off, then log back in, so we can
Okay,
see
all
you?
right.
Yeah, cool. So in the meantime, JSP. So, but you, yeah, there was something Shatawale tweeted about this, trying to compare if the case was Ghana. Okay, since Maybex, you are here now. Okay, let's quickly hear from Maybex, and we'll come back to what Shatawale said. So Maybex, what do you think was going on here?
Okay, like there's a trend on social media, especially Twitter, because the whole organization started on Twitter. On Twitter, we have always been one. Nigerians, there's always oneness with Nigerian when it comes to soccer, football, entertainment, social issues. I think the only time we have division among us online is when there's politics. That's when you see a little bit of the divide. Outside that, we rally around each other, we support each other, and like the first commentator said, we emphasize that to show that as young people, actually, we must fight for our own. Like I said, we've always known ourselves to be giants of Africa. So when we begin to see issues from other countries trying to disrespect us, trying to humiliate us, especially for no reason, like in the case of Omale, people will always react and say, no, we will not take it. I think that's where the solidarity came from.
Quite an interesting solidarity there. Abunari, what do you think was happening?
Okay, like JSB and May said, NSAS contributed to it to a great extent, but I don't think it started with NSAS though. Nigerians have always, if you follow all these Twitter battles on Twitter, Nigerians have always rallied around each other, around each other. And again, like Antiobi said, the youths have tested power and there is no going back.
Now, the youths have tested power and there's no going back. Okay.
Yeah, now we realize the power we have, especially the power the social media platform has handed over to us, and we are going to maximize it to the fullest. And that was
okay. Let's bring Ghana into the picture very quickly. Sorry to cut in, Bunario. Shatawale tweeted something when that issue was going on, trying to compare if the situation was a Ghanaian artist, what would have happened. Let me pull out his tweet very quickly. And so if it was Shatawale that was arrested in Uganda, like some people in our music industry, we tried their possible best for them to jail me like 6 years. Ghana creative artists should start learning from Nigerians. This is what we call love. JSB, what do you think about that? Is this love that he's talking about in the music industry? Because I know you are a singer and you're a music artist. This love that Shatawale is talking about, that he's asking Ghanaian artists to emulate from Nigerians. Is this love really existing in the Nigerian music industry?
Well,
it's just
I would say it's not, because everybody these days just only want to be in competition with the next person instead of being in competition with themselves. You understand? And it brings down an avenue of unnecessary beef and unnecessary hate and all that. From Shatawale's point of view, the reason why I would actually get to understand where he's coming from is because of his looks. You understand? Shatta has always had this belief that people don't like him because of the way he looks or the way he does his own thing. But he's not really bothered about it. That's his character. You understand? But human beings will always be human beings. So, but I would say that coming back to the whole love amongst artists, it's very rare, and it's only when you find someone that genuinely cares about you and their intentions towards you is good that you will know that this one is real. Other than that, it's all fake love.
Maybex, what do you think?
Okay, people, if we look at what happened in America during the Black Lives Matter protest, whether you like it or not, we will also tell ourselves back home that see how united these people are. There's this thing about humans that when they find other people being united, even among families, when you say families that they're very united, you tend to tell your siblings or your parents and see that to see how this family are doing well or how these people are united. So I think he is just trying to teach the Ghanaians. The Ghanaians have not been confronted with the issue like ours. We've been confronted with this issue a couple of times from South Africa during Jonathan time when they deported our people and all that. So we've been confronted with this issue, and we have that awareness that it's time to stand up for ourselves, for our citizens. And then you have this little police brutality among us that we've also rose up and stood with individuals. So we've kind of have this thing already that other countries, especially African countries, are beginning to see that we should learn from Nigeria. So I think he's talking about what he has seen from Nigeria and what he has experienced from us in the last 6 months of our solidarity. So I just feel it's a wake up. It's time to wake up his people that let's try and be like these people as well.
Okay, I guess Ghanaians have something to borrow from Nigeria. Yeah, Bonari, you want to say something?
Okay,
I'll give you the last word, just in 30 seconds, because we need to close the segment now so we can introduce the interview. Yeah.
I guess I think the context matters here. You know, the music industry, like every industry, is competitive. Everybody is trying to beat the other. But again, in Nigeria, for example, in the music industry is that way. But when it comes to fighting, like they say on Twitter, we only have the right to drag ourselves. No other person has the right to drag Nigeria.
Yes. You can say that
again. Yeah. So whenever anybody comes for us, we'll go for the person. That is it. But when it comes to the business aspect of it, they will have their issues. They will have their issues.
All right. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, Bonario Nax and JSB Obio, who joined us from Maryland, United States. Thank you for joining us tonight. And May Ubeko joining us from Lagos.
Thank you.
It's been very interesting having you guys on the social media segment. And this is the point where we take the show to the next segment. And I have a guest tonight who is a lawyer. He's a lawyer and a human rights activist. But before I introduce him, I'd like to provide some context to what we're going to be talking about tonight. In Nigeria, the controversies surrounding the EndSARS protests are actually far from over. On Tuesday, Justice John Soho, the Chief Judge of the Federal High Court, said that the court did not freeze the accounts of EndSARS protesters, but those of corporate bodies under suspicion of money laundering. Very interesting. Justice Soho said that those who made such allegations of the court freezing accounts of EndSARS protesters were being uncharitable to the court. According to him, the Central Bank of Nigeria approached the court seeking an order to freeze certain accounts of corporate bodies, and names of individuals were not attached to the applications. This is what he actually said, quote, "I assigned those cases and no individual's name was mentioned. 3 months before the protest, the CBN kept bringing applications, almost in their hundreds, based on what they call deliberate resolve to ruin the economy through money laundering. So if it was the EndSARS people that were involved in the activity undercover, then it is unfortunate for people to begin to call and vilify the court, making damaging allegations against the court," unquote. Soho added that if any of the accounts belonged to any EndSARS protester, it was a mere coincidence. In November, Nigeria Central Bank obtained an ex parte order from the Federal High Court, this same court presided over by Justice Soho, to freeze the accounts of 19 individuals and a company linked to EndSARS, total of 20 entities, 19 individuals and one company. The accounts were frozen based on this court order that was granted by Justice Soho. So to discuss this issue with me tonight is Inibehe Effiong, a lawyer and human rights activist. Thanks for joining me on the show tonight. Effiong, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Good evening, and thank you for having me.
Great. Yeah, so
I can hear you.
Oh, great. So I just provided some background to this recent development about EndSARS.
Yes, please. Yes, please. I can hear you.
It's really interesting because the judge who granted the order is now saying something else entirely from what was initially reported. What exactly, as a lawyer, what exactly do you think is going on here? How would you interpret this new development? Did you hear my question?
Thank you for having me on your program. I welcome listeners to this edition. Now, I want to correct the point you made. I got you clearly. I got you clearly. I got your question clearly.
Go on, please. Go on, please. I guess there's a delay between me and you. So, but just go on.
Hello?
My question, just go on.
My God.
Okay, I think Effiong is trying to rejoin us now.
Yes, so I'm here. So I was making the point.
There was a delay between us hearing each other. So, but can you hear me clearly now? Okay, we're having some technical issues with Effiong joining us, but he's right here with us. Yeah, I think you should go on. If you heard the question, just go on, please.
Yeah, so I'm saying that the ex parte order was not granted by my Lord, Honorable Justice Soho, who I hold in high esteem. I've done a matter before His Lordship, the Chief Judge of the Federal High Court. You can do your findings, but he's one of the most respected judges in Nigeria. Indeed, when you appear before him, you know that this is not a judge who can be easily intimidated or harassed by the government or any other person. So, speaking from experience with this judge, Justice Soho, I do believe that he's a man of honor. I believe he's one of the most cerebral judicial officers that we have in the country. Now, the ex parte order was not granted by him. It was granted by a different judge. So I do not know whether that comment was necessary. The comment by my lord was actually necessary. There is no judge in Nigeria that is presiding over a matter that is allowed to comment publicly in that matter. So my lord only spoke as the head of the Federal High Court in the country. If he was the judge who is handling that matter, there is nothing that would have prompted him to make a public statement. It is against the code of conduct for judicial officers. But having said that, what I'm going to say is this. If the CBN, the Central Bank of Nigeria, being the applicant, the litigant in whose favor this order was granted, was given, if they had misrepresented facts to the court, or if they had suppressed facts, which is what is being stated, what is being canvassed by Mr. Femi Falana and other lawyers who are involved in the applications that have been filed to vacate the freezing order, the court will expectedly, or is expected by law, to vacate the order freezing those accounts, because these orders were made pursuant to an ex parte application. And the law is that in an ex parte application, the applicant in his affidavit must not suppress facts and must not misrepresent facts. So if facts were suppressed or misrepresented, on that basis alone, the court can set aside the order that was made in favor of the CBN. I, as a person, believe that those orders should never have been granted. I am convinced that CBN did not have a justifiable basis for even making that application. Because if you've read their reaction to the motion or notice to vacate the ex parte order, you will see that they did not really have any legal basis to seek for those orders in the first place. All that they are saying is that these accounts are subject of investigation, that these accounts were possibly used for money laundering. I find that very ridiculous. I find that very ludicrous. You cannot tamper with the account of an individual, of a citizen, on the basis of suspicion. There has to be reasonable facts. There have to be a basis in law. There has to be evidence to show that that account is possibly being used to commit an offense. And I also quarrel with the power of the CBN under the Banking and Other Financial Institutions Act, Banks and Other Financial, under the BOVIA, Banks and Other Financial Institutions Act, to seek that kind of order. Because as it has been shown, CBN had started freezing people's accounts before even going to court. What that shows is that this application was made in bad faith. This application was propelled by a desire and a propensity to persecute, by a desperation to victimize protesters. This victimization is still ongoing. These are protesters that their account freezing about the same time that people are being stopped from traveling. You would have also read on Twitter yesterday about the lady who said that the Nigerian immigration has denied her a passport because she has been blacklisted. So we have what I can clearly say is a full-blown dictatorship in the country. So what is happening is that CBN, like the police, like the army, and other key institutions of state have been politicized, are being deployed to achieve a partisan agenda. That clearly explains what has happened. And for me, this is very embarrassing for Nigeria, that the apex regulatory body, in fact, I dare say the main regulatory body for the funds and financial institutions in Nigeria, the Central Bank of Nigeria, that is supposed to be insulated from politics, that is supposed to be above board, was used to clearly achieve what was a sinister agenda of the federal government. It's not supposed to be so. So there is no basis for this order being granted. You cannot criminalize protests. You cannot accuse protesters of engaging in terrorism. So this order should never have been granted. I see it as a stain on the integrity of our judiciary. I see it as an abuse of our judicial process, and I am hoping that the judges who are involved in this case will be circumspect, because this is the time that institutions in Nigeria that are supposed to defend democracy should sit up. We cannot allow a situation where the courts will be used as a dumping ground for executive impunity, or as an avenue for legalizing the legality of the executive, or for legitimizing the illegitimacy of the executive, which is what the CBN sought to do.
Yeah, I hear from what you are saying a situation that looks like the judiciary is under the overwhelming influence of the presidency, the executive. And that is disturbing, because what that tells me is the chances are very slim for anyone who really wants to seek justice in this sort of situation. Because if the courts in the first place that are supposed to be, as we usually say in Nigeria, the last hope of the common man, if the courts are already involved in this type of injustice, what is the hope for some of these people whose accounts have been frozen?
I will have to be honest with you. I am very troubled. I am very alarmed by the increasing deployment of the judicial process to achieve sinister purposes by the executive arm of government. The judiciary in Nigeria is currently being suffocated by a regime that does not pretend that it is a dictatorship, by a regime that is determined to ruin the country, by the regime that is determined to destroy all key institutions in this country. This is not limited to the freezing of the accounts of the NSAS protesters. We have also seen cases where magistrates across the country are granting frivolous detention orders in favor of the SSS and the police. We have seen situations where people are being remanded, people are being detained, and courts are giving very long adjournments to hear application, which is supposed to be clearly accelerated, which is supposed to be given speed, which is supposed to be attended to expeditiously. This is supposed to be habeas corpus. And if you understand what habeas corpus is, that is in the nature of a fundamental right, when the liberty of a citizen is at stake. And you have the courts. For example, there's a person who is said to have posted something on Facebook against the President Buhari, and he was taken to court. The court adjourned his matter till March 2021. Somebody that has been kept in illegal detention for several months, an application has been filed for his release, and a magistrate is adjourning the matter to March 2021. It doesn't make any sense to me. And we lawyers should be totally ashamed that we are now living under a situation where we see some judges, not all judges, so few judges and magistrates in the country making themselves punching bags of the executive, making themselves willing tools of impunity. This is not supposed to be so. I am hoping that the judges are paying attention.
In November, one of the lead NSAS protesters, Eromosele Adene, was charged with criminal incitement, cyber stalking, provoking breach of public peace, and conduct likely to cause breach of peace. More than 300 persons are still in detention nationwide, according to a recent report by Reuters. These are people who were detained during the NSAS protests. My question is, what does the law say about protests? Will this type of charges, criminal incitement, cyber stalking, breach of public peace, is there any situation where this sort of charges can stand in the court of law?
Let me be very blunt with you. The papers on which these charges are drafted have more value than the charges themselves. These are not really criminal charges in the real sense of the word. These are not charges properly so-called. These are just some pretentious attempts to show compliance with the rule of law. These so-called charges can never survive under the fire of cross-examination. I have been involved in defending protesters for a number of years now. And I can tell you confidently that in all those cases, we have always been vindicated. We have always defeated the state. We have always defeated the police. Go and look at history. Cite just one case. I challenge you. One case where a protester was arrested, charged to court and convicted. Just one. Just one. So what they know what they are doing. All that they are doing is just to use the court as an avenue for your impunity. This is not just about the NSAS. It happens every day. I have defended protesters in Akwa Ibom, in Abuja, in Ogun State, and other parts of the country. And in all those cases, those charges have always been thrown out. You cannot criminalize protest. You cannot turn protest to an act of terrorism. You cannot say that somebody wants to breach peace. And let me tell you something. In the case of Charles Oputa, an Inspector General of Police and others, the case of Charlie Boy, which I handled at the Federal High Court, before my Lord Justice Soho. That was why I started by cautioning that I have experience with this judge. I have appeared before this judge. In that case, the police made an argument, a funny argument, and a ridiculous one indeed, that they had intelligence report that hoodlums, in quotes, were going to hijack the protests, that there was going to be a breakdown of law and order. That was the argument. And my replies was very simple. That is why you are known as the Nigerian police force. That is why the state has monopoly of violence. That right. Even when you are convinced, even when you have so-called mystical, so-called superfluous intelligence report, fictional intelligence report, that hoodlums will hijack the protest, you cannot disrupt. You cannot stop a protest preemptively. Because right. It preempts there will be violence. The court agreed with me that even when you believe that there will be breakdown of law and order, you are supposed to be there to ensure that there is no breakdown of law and order. And that is also in line with the spirit and letters of Section 94, Subsection 4 of the Electoral Act, as amended in 2015, which clearly states that the role of the police during political rallies, protests and processions and so on shall be limited to provision of security to the protesters. Therefore, the police has a statutory obligation to defend and protect every person that goes out to protest. It is a dereliction of their statutory responsibility for them to say, we want to stop people from protesting simply because there will be breakdown of law and order. Just yesterday, some people wanted to protest in Akwa Ibom, a group called the Next of Kin of Late Primary School Teachers, who have been fighting for the entitlement. They were summoned by the Commissioner of Police Office, and they told them not to protest because, in quotes, the situation is volatile in the state. The situation is volatile. I told them, go ahead, disregard the illegal order. And they went ahead today. They protested in front of the government house just today. No hoodlums, no bandits hijacked the protest. So this is a notorious, inexcusable reason that the police has consistently preferred for disrupting protests. But the right to protest is constitutional. That is right. What Section 39 of the Constitution says, that guarantees freedom of expression. That is the spirit and letters of Section 41, that guarantees the right to peaceful assembly. As long as protest is peaceful, no police, no military officer, no army has the right to stop people from protesting. So this is my assurance to you, and you can take this home. All these fraudulent charges that they are filing will be thrown out. I can give you 100% assurance.
That's really reassuring for people who are watching and for people who participated in the EndSARS protests. Some of them still in detention as we speak, in prisons, in police stations across the country. But are you currently representing any of the individuals whose accounts were frozen or any of those arrested during the protests?
Not directly. Not directly. What I can confirm to you is that the bulk of them, at least 80 to 90% of those whose accounts were frozen, they are being represented by a team of lawyers led by Mr. Femi Falana SN, who I'm very close to, who is my mentor, and I can assure you that I'm going to be involved in those cases as we proceed.
Right.
Indeed,
okay.
I was supposed to be with them in court at the last date, the last time the court sat, but because I had another trial at the Federal High Court in Lagos, so I couldn't get into Abuja to join them. But I'm going to be part of those cases. Any litigation that has to do with the rights, defense of the rights of the Nigerian people, you can always count on some of us to be part of it.
Okay, still talking about human rights issues, which I know it's your turf as a lawyer and a human rights activist. Last week, Afrobeat singer Seun Kuti posted a video where he said he would resist any attempt to arrest him without a court warrant. Let's take a look at portions of that video, which was trending on social media, and I'll come back to you.
See, even if the federal government come for me, they don't bring arrest warrants. If they don't bring arrest warrant, every judge sign, they'll say, dear chairman, I want to see you, director. Now shoot out. I'm saying it now for the whole world to hear. They have to come to my house with arrest warrant.
Okay, so this is an issue that happens almost every time in Nigeria. As we speak, there was a report today online that at least 30 policemen had stormed his residence, but he was not around, so they didn't get him. But what does the law say about arresting someone with a court warrant? The average Nigerian citizen who is a layman in law, who does not understand their rights, when they find themselves in this sort of situation, how should they respond?
What I can tell you is that under the law, for example, in Lagos State, where Mr. Seun Kuti resides and where I practice majorly, we have the Administration of Criminal Justice Law of Lagos State of 2011. I also cite the Police Act of 2020 that has just been assented to, that has just come into force. Under these two laws that I've cited, the ACJL of Lagos and the Police Act, there are provisions regulating or governing arrest. Now, there is what we call indictable and non-indictable offenses. There are also situations where arrest can be effected with and without warrant. For example, where somebody is caught while committing the offense, you do not expect the police to first go to the station and obtain a warrant before they can effect an arrest. If affray is being committed, if people are fighting in the public, if somebody is being assaulted, if a robbery operation is ongoing, if somebody is about to be killed, about to be lynched, you do not expect the police to seek a warrant before they can effect an arrest. So under the ACJL and the Police Act, there are circumstances under which the police can arrest without a warrant. But where, like in his own case, they have not caught him in the act, and I do not really know the specific reason for which they would want to arrest him. So what I'm going to say is this. I believe he spoke in the heat of passion. If you watch the video, he was very passionate. He was very emotional. Right. So for me as a lawyer, I'm usually very careful when, in the interpretation I give to comments that are made in the heat of passion, comments that are made when people are in temperamental or when people are emotional. I understand he was angry. But if he's in his house and the police are to arrest him for an offense they believe he may have committed, I expect them to have an arrest warrant, and possibly a search warrant. I want to also assume that if he has a gun, that he has a gun license. Otherwise, that itself will be an offense, because that will offend the the Firearms Act, the Robbery and Firearms Act, which governs ownership of guns in Nigeria. So I want to assume that he had a gun license. If he doesn't have a gun license, I hope he gets one soon. Because under this regime that we are, the police are looking for every excuse to trample on the rights of those who are fighting for a better country. So my advice to him is that he should be more circumspect when he's angry next time, so that he does not give these agents of impunity a reason to violate his rights.
Yeah, during the week, Nigerian singer Omar Didia, aka Omale, another singer Temilade Okpeni, popularly known as Tems, and their manager Awuni Muyiwa, they were charged alongside 4 Ugandans for holding a music concert in Uganda and allegedly violating the COVID-19 regulations in the country. That issue sparked a lot of outrage on Nigerian social media. A lot of people were tweeting about it, calling for the freedom of that Nigerian artist and the others who were arrested. Omale has also corroborated claims that he had legal permission to hold that concert, which was part of the defense that we saw on social media by some artists like Burna Boy, who were tweeting and calling for him to be released. My question is, was his arrest legal? This is the realm of international law now. What would have happened if the Ugandan authorities did not release this artist and then proceeded to prosecute him? Can you paint a picture for us what would have transpired?
To understand this case, we have to look at the political climate in Uganda. Uganda is not a democratic country by any means, by any standard. Uganda is a dictatorship. You have Museveni, a bloody dictator who has been holding on to power for decades, for over 3 decades. Somebody who believed that he had the divine right to rule over Uganda. A man who should be resting with his grandkids. Somebody who can barely articulate his views, holding the country to ransom, who has completely weaponized COVID and has used COVID as a coverage, as an excuse to attack his opponents. Do not forget that Bobby Wine, who is the major contender, the major opponent of Museveni, that Bobby Wine has also been a victim of this so-called enforcement of COVID-19 regulations in Uganda. So if you don't understand that context, you will not appreciate what really happened. For me, the arrest of Omale and his colleague had a lot to do with the internal politics of Uganda. It was not about COVID. The same dubious charge was also filed against Bobby Wine. Bobby Wine was equally arrested and arraigned in court for allegedly exposing or risking the lives of people during his campaign. Whereas I have seen videos, because I support Bobby Wine, I have followed the Ugandan politics closely. I have seen videos of Museveni, the dictator, going on campaigns with his own supporters, many of them not wearing masks, not having masks on. So if this artist from Nigeria had permit to stage a concert or an event, and the police suddenly woke up to say, oh, that you were violating COVID-19 regulation, I find that to be very ludicrous and senseless, because as far as I am concerned, there was no basis to arrest them in the first place. Given that, I understand that the police were actually present at that place.
Yeah, so this is what Bobby Wine tweeted. There is no rule of law in Uganda. This country runs on orders from a small circle of oppressors who dispense orders that are implemented without question. There's absolutely no reason why our brothers should be detained, yet their concert was under police watch. Free Omale. So that's just sort of to corroborate and bring some more context to what you're saying.
Absolutely, absolutely. There is no democracy in Uganda. People are being killed. There has also been attempts on the lives of Bobby Wine. So I just see Omale as scapegoats of state impunity. They were
Yeah,
just.
but my question is, what do you think would have happened if they had gone ahead to prosecute him? What would have been the legal response?
No, that would have, under international law, there's the principle of state sovereignty that gives every country the right to determine its affairs. So I do not think that Nigeria would have necessarily determined the outcome of the trial. What Nigeria would have done, which is what they did in this case, would have been to implore and engage some diplomatic channels to secure their release, which was actually what they did, which is what every responsible government should have done. But the Nigerian government could not on their own terminate the dubious charges that were filed against them. So it is good that the diplomatic efforts were made to secure their release. This is the best way to go about this. And what the Ugandan government also did was also a violation on the rights of Omah Lay and the other artists who were arrested. But like I told you, we are not going to appreciate the issue except we look at what is going on in Uganda currently. Opposition figures are being arrested, media houses are being raided, journalists are being arrested and detained. This is happening on a daily basis. I follow the Ugandan politics very closely.
So, but going forward, do you think that there are legal implications for music artists? Should they be seeking legal counsel before accepting to perform at events like this abroad?
Every musician, every artist should have a lawyer. I don't understand why any artist in Nigeria, any serious-minded artist or performer will not have a lawyer as part of his team, as part of his management group. All of them are supposed to have the services of lawyers. They are supposed to retain lawyers to advise them, to also guide them, so that even when they are going to perform shows in foreign countries, those lawyers can do some form of checks, some form of due diligence to check what the domestic laws of those countries are and to advise them in terms of compliance. But what we see in Nigeria is that people don't really pay attention to the need to have a lawyer. It is when the problem arises that they begin to resort to a fire brigade approach. So I'm hoping that what has happened to Omah Lay will be a lesson to other artists in the country on the need for them to appreciate the role of lawyers in their career.
Right. So next, let's move on to some other issue that has to do with EndSARS. A Nigerian politician and businessman, a former presidential aspirant under the ruling party, Adamu Garba, has dragged the CEO of Twitter, Jack Dorsey, to court for endorsing and supporting the EndSARS protests. Is there any merit to his case at all?
Only the court can determine. But do you really see what he filed as a lawsuit? For me, I just see it as a coming relief. I do not think that the man who filed this suit believes that he himself believes that he has actually taken anyone to court. In my years of practice, with the little I know about law, I have never seen a court process as funny as the one that I cited. When somebody cites or names a party on a court document, a court process, with the description EndSARS protesters. So what that means is that I seated here, I am also a respondent in that suit. It means that thousands of Nigerian youth across the country are also respondents in that suit. It means that all the people who protested in Lagos, in Kano, in Abuja, in Akwa Ibom, and all over the country, on the day that case is coming up, each of them has the right to go to that court to say, we are part of EndSARS protesters. We are coming to register appearance. We are coming to appear in line with the case that has been filed. So before the court even finish acknowledging all the EndSARS protesters, how long do you think that is going to take before the roll call of the EndSARS protesters is over? So I do not see that as a lawsuit as far as I'm concerned. I see it as, an attempt by somebody to seek fame through a bad means. This is just an attention seeker as far as I am concerned. How can you go on Twitter and tell a court to ban Twitter from operating in a country, and you are using the same Twitter? You should begin by deactivating your account. If you are really serious, if you really believe that Twitter should not exist, that Twitter should not be allowed to operate in the country, deactivate your account. But this is even a verified Twitter user, which is why I don't understand what Twitter is doing. I don't understand why they should have unverified him by now. If somebody is saying, I don't want Twitter in Nigeria,
why should they unverify him if he has the right to his expression? He has the right to freedom of expression, and Twitter supports
exactly the point I am making.
Okay, let's leave Adamu Garba's issue for now. And
no, that is the point I am making. That is the point I am making. If the individual recognizes that there is something called the right to freedom of expression in Nigeria, you cannot be going to court and be telling a court to block Twitter or direct the Nigerian Communications Commission to deactivate Twitter.
Yeah, I see your point there. I was just trying to clarify the whole idea of maybe Twitter taking sanctions against this individual because he has an opinion that isn't that Twitter isn't comfortable about. I wouldn't support that, and I think that goes against the rights of expression that people have, you know. So, but we'll move from that issue to another issue that I want to bring to your attention, which is during the EndSARS protest, there was this viral video of a man that was identified as Olusegun Abiodun Bolarinwa. He is said to be the president of the Yoruba Youth Forum. He was shooting at unarmed citizens during the EndSARS protest in Lagos. But last month, the spokesperson of the Lagos State Police Command, Muyiwa Adejobi, told Pulse, an online newspaper, that no case has been reported to the police. This is what he said. He said, quote, "Let's have complaints physically, and we can deal with that." So, but let's take a look at that video very quickly, and then I'll come back to you with a question that that I have in mind. So this is a private citizen. So yeah, so this is a private citizen shooting in broad daylight, captured in video, and the Nigerian police is saying that no one has made any complaint physically, and so they cannot do anything. You're a lawyer. What does the law say about a situation like this?
The excuse of the police is very funny. You know, Nigeria is a very funny country itself. Nigeria is the only country where a law enforcement agency will say, we are not going to enforce the law because nobody has asked us to do so. It doesn't make any sense to me. The first question is, the man who brought out this gun, does he have a license for that gun? Is he a licensed gun owner? That is the question.
Right.
If I carry an AK-47 now and walk on the street of Lagos with my suit or a trouser, and would the police pass me by? Would they not accost me?
Right.
Now, if I decide to release some shots to entertain myself, not even shooting at people, to entertain myself in a public gathering, in a public place, will I not be interrogated? Will the police not trace me? Will they not come to my house? Will they wait until somebody who had the gun being fired comes to them to lodge a complaint? So what they have said is not just plain nonsense. This is somebody who, I'm not certain if somebody died from that shooting, but if someone died, that was premeditated murder. That wasn't manslaughter. If someone died from that shooting, that was premeditated murder. If someone was wounded, that is grievous bodily harm. He should be arrested. He should be prosecuted. Let me ask you a question. Why do we have CCTV cameras placed in strategic places? If crime can only be investigated when there are complainants, when there are individuals who come forward to make a complaint. What is the need for CCTV cameras? Then we shouldn't have CCTV cameras. We can as well dislodge policemen from going on patrols. Why do policemen go on patrols on the streets? Why do they have to stand on the road? It doesn't make any sense to me what they have said. This is somebody who was caught committing a crime. If you watch that video, there was no imminent threat to his life. The people who were running after him, I didn't even see the windscreen of his car being damaged. If you watch the front, there was no, I'm watching the video now, there was no blockage of that vehicle. In other words, even if he was under attack, he had the chance to escape. So there was no threat to his life. There was no attack on his person. There was no attack on his person. So we cannot even talk about self-defense. Self-defense doesn't arise. It is not sequential. It doesn't arise. But even if there was a situation where his life was under imminent threat, there's a principle of proportionality in criminal jurisprudence, in criminal law, that the defense must be proportionate to the attack. Right. From that video that you have shown, I haven't seen someone with a machete pursuing him. I did not even see someone with a catapult. Let alone a pistol. Let alone a pistol or an assault rifle. So what was the threat to this man's life that necessitated him bringing out an assault rifle, targeting people and firing? He should be arrested. The fact that this individual has not been arrested is an indictment on the police. It is a shame on the country. It is a slap on the Commissioner of Police of Lagos State or Ogun or wherever this incident happened. And they should resign.
This happened.
Luckily, the individual who has been identified, whose identity is known. So if you have to wait for the police, for an individual to send a petition, it doesn't make it, because under the Police Act, the duty of the police is not only to protect life and property, it is also prevention of commission of offense. It is also prevention. Police have the right to prevent the commission of an offense. So if you can prevent the commission of an offense, why are you saying nobody came to you to lodge a report, even when the offense has been committed before the whole world? Before the whole world. So this is a case of class. It's just about class. This is a member of the ruling elite class. And because the police has made itself an elite institution, an institution of the ruling class, they have now given him immunity from prosecution. There is no ordinary citizen in Lagos State who does not enjoy state protection, who does not have political power, who does not have connection, that would have been allowed to get away with this kind of heinous crime.
Right.
And because this has happened, and this man is not in custody, this man is not standing trial, it is a shame on the country.
I'll move from there to my last question for you tonight. It's almost the top of the hour. In August, you filed a fundamental rights suit against Nigeria's National Broadcasting Commission, the NBC, the Minister of Information, Lai Mohammed, and the federal government over the imposition of 5 million naira on Nigeria Info FM and the threat to sanction other broadcast stations in Nigeria. You said in a tweet, quote, "Imposition of a fine is a judicial act, which only a court of law can perform. The courts have held in many cases that administrative agencies have no power to impose fines, and that it amounts to a breach of fair hearing for agencies like the NBC to impose a sentence of fines," unquote. I was issued a warning by the NBC for laughing over a funny tweet about President Buhari when I was in Nigeria. The next sanction would probably have been a fine or something even worse than that. What is the status of this case in court? And are you confident that the courts will rule in your favor?
Well, as a lawyer, I cannot have confidence in the courts, because if I don't have confidence in our courts, maybe I should stop practicing. So I have confidence in our judiciary. Our judiciary is not perfect, but I believe that the judiciary will live up to its responsibility. I've brought a legitimate complaint before the court. Luckily, both the Minister of Information and the NBC have joined issues. They have filed what they term their defense. They have filed a counter affidavit to my fundamental right application, where they are saying that I do not have the local standing to complain because I am neither a broadcaster nor the owner of a broadcast station, which is funny to me because in fundamental rights applications, they may not have known that you do not need to have locals. You do not need to show, you are not required to show how you are affected by the action that you are complaining about. You need not be personally affected. In fact, under the FRED rules, the Fundamental Rights Enforcement Procedure rules, any person, particularly human rights lawyers, are encouraged, human rights activists are encouraged to go to court to enforce not only their rights, but the rights of other citizens. So they cannot say that I'm not affected, but I will allow the court to determine that. I am confident that I will get justice at the end of the day. It is a case that I'm willing to pursue to a logical conclusion.
Thank you very much, Barrister Inebe Ifeong, for joining me tonight on The Fix with Ohimai. It's been nearly an hour of discussing issues from the EndSARS protest, the rule of law, human rights in Nigeria and abroad. And it's been my absolute pleasure to have you on the show tonight.
Thank you very much for having me. I wish you the very best.
All right. And for our viewers, thanks again for joining me tonight on The Fix with Ohimai. It's the program where we discuss people, problems, and perspectives. I am Ohimai Amaize, broadcasting live from New York, and see you on our next episode. Good night, and do have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
Broadcasting live from New York, you are watching The Fix. It's about people, problems, and perspectives. I am Ohimai Amaize, your anchor on the show. Let's begin.